The Valorian system was quiet, wrapped in the deep silence of space. Stars shimmered peacefully, and the moons glowed faintly over the metallic surface of Velor Prime, the capital world of the Dominion. For centuries, the Valorians had ruled their part of the galaxy with confidence and pride. Their fleets were powerful, their technology unmatched, or so they believed. They thought themselves the rulers of logic and order, destined to lead the lesser races of the stars. But everything changed the night the signal came. On the farthest edge of their system, inside a small outpost station named Vathor 9, a young scout officer named Raltor leaned over his console, bored from another night of empty readings. Space was quiet, too quiet. He sighed, adjusting his green-scaled fingers on the control panel. It had been years since anything interesting had appeared on their scanners. Then the radar blinked. Once, then again. Raltor frowned. "What is that?" he muttered. He tapped a few keys, expecting it to be a glitch. But the signal remained, faint yet consistent, echoing from the outer edge of the system. "Commander," he called out. Within moments, the door hissed open and Commander Vexar, a tall Valorian with golden armor plates on his skin, walked in. "What is it now, Ral? Another phantom echo?" "No, sir. This is different." Raltor's voice trembled slightly as he brought up the data. "Unknown fleet entering our border. Large formation. Power readings. Off the scale." The commander raised an eyebrow. "Pirates?" Ral shook his head. "No. This isn't pirate tech. It's too organized. And wait." His eyes widened as the system completed its analysis. "Origin, Sol system." The room went silent. The hum of machines suddenly felt louder, heavier. Commander Vexar's expression changed. His throat clicked nervously. "Run that again," he ordered. Raul did. The computer's synthetic voice confirmed it. Source confirmed human origin. Terran signature detected. The two Valorians stared at each other. The air itself felt colder. "Impossible," Vexar whispered. "Humans haven't left their system in centuries." The last report said they turned inward, isolated after the old wars. Raul nodded weakly. "And yet they are here." They had all heard the stories, half history, half myth. Long ago the humans had fought the strongest empires in the galaxy and survived. They were called monsters, destroyers, survivors. When they went silent, the galaxy sighed in relief. No one had seen them in hundreds of years. Some believed they had gone extinct. Others said they were rebuilding in silence, waiting. The commander straightened, his scales catching the light. "Send the report to High Command immediately. Include all data logs and raise system alert level to crimson." Raul hesitated.
"Sir, what if they come here?"
Vexar turned slowly toward the viewport. The stars outside looked peaceful, but now they felt like watching eyes. "Then we pray the old stories were only stories," he said quietly. The transmission was sent, encoded and urgent, racing toward Velor Prime. But before confirmation could arrive, something strange happened. The lights flickered. Once, twice. Then the entire outpost trembled as a low, vibrating hum filled the air. Consoles blinked in rapid patterns. Static roared through communication channels. Raltor's heart pounded. "Commander, our systems are..." Suddenly every monitor flashed white. The radar screen went blank. All readings vanished. Then one by one the external sensors began shutting down. "They're jamming us," Vexar growled, his voice trembling despite his attempt to sound calm. "But how? They haven't even entered the inner system yet." Outside the observation glass, something dark moved. Not a ship, something bigger. Space itself seemed to ripple. A formation of black ships appeared out of nowhere, silent, smooth, terrifying. Their hulls absorbed light like living shadows. No visible engines, no weapon glow, no markings except for one thing, a faint blue emblem. A simple circle with a star at its heart, the symbol of the Terran unity. Raltor's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't look away. There was no broadcast, no greeting, no warning. "Just presence," Vexar whispered. "They don't even want to talk." And then the lights went out completely. Total darkness. Ral could hear his own heartbeat in the silence. The hum returned, deeper this time, almost like the growl of a giant beast beneath their feet. He looked up just in time to see a flash. White, then red, and the outer sensors exploded into static. The transmission they had sent barely reached the Dominion before the outpost vanished from all records. No debris. No explosion. Just gone. When the message reached Velor Prime's council chambers, panic began to spread. The words of the last transmission echoed through the data logs like a ghostly whisper. Unknown fleet. Sol origin. Humans are here. The Valorians had mocked the stories. They had laughed at the warnings. But now every officer, every scientist, every ruler in the Dominion felt it deep in their bones. Something ancient had awakened, and it was coming straight for them. The message from Vathor 9 arrived at Velor Prime like a sudden storm. High in the council chambers, Elder Varn, the oldest and wisest of the Valorian leaders, stared at the data stream in disbelief. The holographic display flickered, showing the coordinates, fleet size, and energy signatures. Every reading screamed the same terrifying truth. The humans were here. For centuries, the Valorian Dominion had laughed at humanity. They called them primitive, fragile, short-lived, incapable of standing against the vast empires of the galaxy. They said humans were nothing but fleeting sparks in the darkness. But the Council had also heard the legends, tales of humans fighting entire fleets, of worlds burning when provoked, of soldiers surviving against impossible odds, myths dismissed as exaggerations. Until now, the chamber grew tense. Each council member's claws tapped nervously against their chairs. The air smelled of ionized metal and fear. Chancellor Rithen, a proud Valorian with silver horns curling over his head, slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Explain this," he demanded, his voice echoing across the chamber. Vathor 9 reports a fleet of unimaginable size and technology. They claim Sol system origin, humans. How is this possible? They were supposed to remain isolated. Elder Varn lifted his gaze slowly, his tired eyes filled with sorrow. "They warned us once long ago," he said softly, voice trembling. "Do you remember the human envoy? They told us, do not touch what is ours. Do not provoke the future you cannot survive." And we ignored them, the council murmured uneasily. Memories of the past buried beneath layers of pride rose uncomfortably to the surface. Years ago, a small human colony had been destroyed by Valorian patrols, mistakenly claimed as unclaimed territory. 10,000 civilians wiped out in a single coordinated strike. The incident was quietly covered up, dismissed as collateral damage of expansion. Now, it seemed, the humans had remembered. A younger counselor, Jirak, his scales dark with anxiety, stammered, We did not know. Surely this is a bluff. They could not have reached us so fast." "Their system was isolated." Varn shook his head slowly. "We always underestimate them. Always." Across the chamber, monitors showed the slow but steady movement of the Terran fleet entering the outer reaches of the Valorian system. The readings defied explanation. Ships moved without visible propulsion. Energy emissions bent space around them. Sensors failed to calculate mass or speed correctly. Every scientist in the council room whispered prayers to gods that had never answered. "Prepare all fleets," Rithan commanded. "Mobilize every ship. Shield the capital worlds. We cannot face them unprepared." "Chancellor," another counselor interjected nervously. "Evacuation protocols. Our civilians. We have no time for delay." Rithan snapped. "If the humans are truly coming, we must face them. We are the Dominion. No primitive species will dictate our fate." Varn's claws drummed quietly on the table. "And yet history does not favor the prideful," he murmured. His voice carried across the chamber like a cold wind. "They will not negotiate. They never do, and they do not forgive." Outside the chamber, Valorian citizens were already panicking. Sirens blared in the cities. Families clutched each other, fleeing to underground shelters. Merchants abandoned trade stations, leaving goods to drift in the vacuum. The air trembled with fear, a fear unlike any the Dominion had ever known. Meanwhile, fleet commanders reported confusion on the sensors. Ships were appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Power grids flickered. Communications cut out for seconds at a time, only to return with static-filled warnings. Every officer knew, deep in their hearts, that these humans were not ordinary adversaries. Raltor, from the destroyed Vathor 9 outpost, was now connected via hologram from a surviving relay satellite. His green eyes were wide with terror. They don't respond to our hails. They don't signal, they just arrive," he said, voice shaking. "And every reading they bend reality itself. Our science cannot explain it." Counselors exchanged grim glances. A human fleet had entered their system, silent, unstoppable, and unyielding. Elder Varn leaned back, letting out a long sigh that seemed to carry the weight of generations. "We laughed at the humans because we thought ourselves invincible," he said. "But pride is the weakest armor. The galaxy has forgotten what fear feels like. Until now, as the Terran fleet drew closer, the first whispers of dread spread beyond the walls of Valor Prime. It traveled across every world in the Dominion, through every communication channel, every trading hub. One phrase repeated endlessly among soldiers and civilians alike: "The humans are here, and they will not be ignored." In that moment, a profound, unshakable fear settled in every heart. The Dominion realized, too late, that history was not merely a collection of stories, it was a warning. The humans had returned, and this time they were not asking for peace. At the outer rim of the Valorian system, the dark expanse of space seemed unnaturally quiet. Stars shimmered faintly against the black, and gas clouds glowed like distant lanterns. And then, like shadows sliding across the void, the Terran fleet appeared. No flare, no announcement, no warning, just presence. 100 massive ships emerged from the darkness, black as void itself, their hulls absorbing the light around them. They glided in perfect formation, silent and deliberate, as if the universe itself bent to make way for them. Sensors could barely detect them, and those that did failed to measure their true size or speed. Haltor, still connected via the relay, stared at the monitors with wide, trembling eyes. They're here. All of them, at once. In Valor Prime's council chamber, the leaders watched through long-range sensors. The holograms flickered with each passing ship. No one spoke. The room was filled with the electric tension of disbelief and fear. Even Chancellor Rithan, who had never shown weakness, sat rigid, his claws gripping the edge of the table. Elder Varn leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "They are not moving for trade. They are not moving for negotiation. They move for something else." And then the first transmission arrived. A single voice echoed across the system, calm, deep, and unyielding. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Terran Unity Fleet. You destroyed our colony. You murdered 10,000 civilians. You have 3 minutes to evacuate all military assets and surrender your command." Silence followed. 3 minutes. The council chamber erupted into chaos. "This is impossible," shouted Rithan. 3 minutes is not enough for even our fastest evacuation. Do you think they care? Elder Varn's voice cut through the panic, steady and cold. They do not negotiate. They do not delay. They act, and the consequences are absolute. Outside, Valorian fleet commanders scrambled to respond. Starships ignited engines, weapons systems glowed, and defensive grids hummed to life. But even as they moved, sensors failed to track the humans. Energy fields bent around their ships, cloaking them partially in a ghostly shimmer. Every attempt to measure speed or weapon power returned impossible results. "Sir," one young officer gasped, "we cannot calculate their mass. Our weapons cannot target them. It's like they're not fully in our space and focus." Rithan barked. "Fire everything. Target their hulls." The human fleet did not respond. No lasers, no missiles, no warnings. They drifted in perfect silent formation, their presence alone suffocating the confidence of the Valorians. It was as if the humans were a shadow stretched across reality, cold and unyielding. Raltor whispered into his communicator, voice shaking. "They're watching us. Not attacking, just watching." In the civilian sectors, families huddled together. Parents held trembling children close, whispering stories of human history, of battles where entire fleets had fallen before a handful of humans. The legends of the old wars, once thought exaggerated, felt terrifyingly real now. A countdown began in the council chamber. 3 minutes. Every second stretched like an eternity. The Valorian High Command tried frantically to send offers of surrender, to negotiate, to communicate, but their messages bounced off invisible barriers, static-filled and ignored. The youngest counselor, Jirak, knelt on the floor, claws gripping the metal panels. We should have listened. We should have..." His voice broke into silence. Elder Varn turned toward him. "We laughed at the warnings. We called them myths. And now we are witnessing the consequences." Across the fleet, ships shuddered as sensors began failing entirely. The humans moved closer, and the fabric of the system seemed to twist around them. Gravity readings fluctuated. Light bent strangely. Power systems hiccuped unpredictably. Even the main sun of the Valorian system flickered as if reacting to their arrival. And then, as the 3 minutes ended, every Valorian watched in frozen horror as the first world trembled. Mountains shivered. Oceans rippled unnaturally. Cities flickered as energy grids failed. The humans had not fired a shot, yet the destruction had already begun. Raltor whispered to himself, unable to tear his eyes away. They don't even need weapons. Just their presence. In the council chamber, Chancellor Rethan's roar of defiance caught in his throat. His empire, proud and powerful, could not comprehend what was happening. Every officer, every leader, every scientist felt it. Humanity was no ordinary foe. Humanity was a force of nature, relentless and absolute. And at the heart of it all, the Terran fleet moved as one, silent and purposeful, carrying with it the weight of history, the memory of wrongs, and the certainty of consequence. For the Valorians, the fear was simple, profound, and undeniable. They had awakened a predator, and predators did not ask. They acted. The Valorian High Command was in chaos. Alarms screamed through the metallic corridors of Velor Prime, echoing off walls that had never known fear. Every officer, every soldier, every civilian felt the weight of impending doom pressing down like a black hole. In the central chamber, Chancellor Rethan banged his clawed fists against the table. "Send every fleet! Shield our planets! Evacuate the civilians!" His roar echoed, but no one dared move too quickly. The fleet sensors were failing. Ships that should have been visible blinked out of existence and then reappeared moments later. The humans were not just attacking, they were rewriting reality around them. Elder Varn, standing at the far end of the chamber, remained calm, though his eyes betrayed deep sorrow. They do not negotiate. They never have. And they do not forgive. Rethan spun toward him. "You would have us surrender? Let our worlds be erased without a fight." Varn's gaze did not waver. Not surrender, survival. If we act with haste, perhaps some may live. But we cannot fight them. Not with pride, not with weapons. Only with humility and caution. The council erupted into debate. Some shouted for a counterattack, some for retreat, and some simply wept. Holograms flickered, showing the Terran fleet slowly moving toward the inner system. The humans did not fire, did not speak, did not signal. They simply moved, silent as shadows, precise as death. Raltor, still connected through the relay from Vathor 9's remnants, spoke with a trembling voice. "Sir, the outer colonies? We cannot evacuate them in time. The humans they are everywhere at once. Space bends around their ships. Our weapons, they will not work." One young counselor, Jirak, clawing at the floor, whispered, "We destroyed their colony. We took their people. They remember." "Yes," Elder Varn said, voice heavy. "And now we pay the price." Outside the capital, the civilians felt the change before they saw it. Lights flickered, then died. Gravity shifted slightly, making even the strongest Valorians stumble. Communications failed entirely. Parents held children in terror, whispering forgotten prayers. Families huddled in shelters designed to withstand meteor strikes, but not the presence of humans moving silently across the system. In the council chamber, Rithan's voice cracked. We can't even reach them. No transmissions are getting through. It's like they are not in our reality." Varn's eyes were distant. He spoke to no one in particular. "We thought we were untouchable. We believed ourselves gods among the stars. But pride blinds the strongest. And the humans, they have patience and memory beyond anything we understand." On the observation decks, officers reported strange phenomena. Planets wobbled imperceptibly. Moons trembled. Energy grids malfunctioned in impossible patterns. Sensor readings fluctuated between 0 and infinity, and still the Terran fleet moved silently, deliberately, as though testing the Valorians' resolve, measuring how much fear could be stored in the hearts of an empire. Rithan pounded the table again. "We cannot fight this," he screamed. "We cannot even reason with them. They do not respond." Elder Varn's voice cut through the panic. "No. They respond in ways you refuse to understand. They respond in consequences. Every empire that underestimated them, every world that mocked their warning, has paid a price." Raltor's voice broke through the comms again, trembling. "Sir, I can't watch it happen. The outer colonies, people we trained, children we protected, they are gone." His voice trailed into silence. In the streets of Valor Prime, panic turned to hysteria. Citizens crowded shelters, tripping over each other, crying for protection from a force that no one could see. Merchants abandoned entire stations, leaving goods to float away. Soldiers abandoned posts, unable to comprehend the invisible danger approaching. The Terran fleet was not attacking in the conventional sense. They were annihilating reality itself around them. 3 minutes passed, and then the first world in the outer system began to crack. Mountains split silently. Rivers lifted into the air in twisting ribbons of water. Cities lost power, and the sky shimmered unnaturally. No weapons fired, no energy beams, nothing exploded. And yet entire populations were erased in moments, leaving only a silent, trembling void. Rithan's roar turned into a whisper. We cannot survive this." Elder Varn simply nodded as if confirming a truth that had always been there. "We are being judged, not by gods, not by fate, but by humanity." Raltor closed his eyes, tears streaming down his green-scaled face. They are not fighting us. They are teaching us that no empire is untouchable, no pride unpunished. Outside, the Terran fleet moved closer. Its shadow stretched across the system, touching every world, every moon, every planet. The humans did not shout. They did not fire. They simply existed. And existence was enough to remind the Valorians of the consequences of arrogance. And in the hearts of every Valorian, a single truth became undeniable. The humans had returned. Not for negotiation, not for conquest, but for justice. And no plea, no plan, no weapon could stand against them. The first tremors started unnoticed, subtle shifts beneath the feet of the Valorians. On distant worlds, people felt strange vibrations, like the heartbeat of the system itself was faltering. The military sensed nothing at first. They were busy scrambling ships, hurling missiles into empty space, trying to react to the Terran fleet that remained silent and still. And then it began. The outermost planet cracked. Mountains fractured in impossible ways. Rivers lifted skyward, coalescing into twisting silver ribbons. Cities went dark. Communications vanished. There were no screams, no explosions, no fireballs, just disappearance. Entire populations were gone, leaving ghostly empty cities suspended in the void. Raltor, observing from the relay satellite, could hardly speak. "Sir, the planet's there, collapsing," he stammered. His claws shook, not because of weapons, they're destabilizing the planet itself. The crust, the atmosphere, it's dying. In the Valorian capital, Chancellor Rithan could only stare in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered, claws trembling against the armrest. We've never seen anything like this. Not even in simulation." Elder Varn walked slowly to the observation window, watching the first worlds of his empire collapse. His eyes were calm but heavy with sorrow. "We were warned," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. "And we did not listen." Across the system, panic spread like wildfire. Fleet commanders abandoned coordination, shouting orders to ships that no longer responded. Power grids failed everywhere. Gravity shifted unpredictably. Moons wobbled and collided with satellites. Even the Valorian sun flickered, its core convulsing slightly as though reacting to some unseen force. Haltor's voice trembled again. "Sir, the entire system..." Before he could finish, his comms failed entirely. Static replaced his voice, then silence. The Terran fleet moved closer, still silent, still methodical. No one knew how they were doing it. Weapons, energy grids, satellites, everything the Valorians relied on failed within moments of the humans' arrival. The fleet itself was not firing. It didn't need to. Presence alone was destruction. In the council chamber, the leaders of Valor Prime were paralyzed. Panic, disbelief, and despair mixed into a tangible cloud that hung over the room. Families huddled in underground bunkers, praying to gods who had never answered. Soldiers abandoned posts. Leaders screamed, hoping that shouting could somehow stop what was happening. Rithan's voice cracked. We can't even fight them. Our ships, our weapons. Nothing works." Varn remained calm. "There's no fight here. Only understanding." Understanding? The others looked at him like he had lost his mind. Their world was disappearing before their eyes, yet he spoke of understanding. "Yes," he said. "Understand this. Humans do not destroy blindly. They act with purpose. They do not strike for anger. They strike for consequence. They are teaching us. Every world lost is a lesson. Every life taken is a reminder of pride and arrogance. On one of the inner planets, families looked up as mountains began to fracture, tearing cities apart silently. Water lifted from rivers and oceans in twisting tornadoes, shimmering like silver ribbons against the black void. Children clung to parents, unaware of the lessons their people had ignored for centuries. Stor watched the devastation from space, unable to move. They don't even need weapons, just their presence. It's enough. Entire planets were now trembling, the crust splitting like fragile shells. The inner world, the heart of the Valorian dominion, began to feel the strain. Cities shook. Communication networks failed. Power grids fried. People screamed into darkness, but there was no one to hear them. And still, the humans did not fire. They did not speak. They merely drifted across the system, calm, deliberate, and unavoidable. In the council chamber, Rithan sank into his chair, claws dragging across the floor. We are nothing. Varn placed a claw on his shoulder. We are what we became. And now the humans remind us that no empire is untouchable, no pride goes unpunished, and no warning should ever be ignored. From orbit, Stor saw the last moments of his homeworld. The ground cracked like glass, oceans tore themselves from the planet's surface, cities disappeared in silence. Stars reflected on the black hulls of the Terran fleet, calm and patient as they drifted. Humanity's presence alone had erased a civilization, and in that silence the truth settled in the hearts of every Valorian. They had awakened something beyond comprehension. Something that did not need to fight to win. Something that judged and acted with precision. Something human. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time had lost meaning in the emptiness of the Valorian system. Where once planets orbited their star, now there was only a void. A vast black expanse scattered with drifting debris, faint glimmers of dust, and echoes of civilizations that had vanished in silence. The Terran fleet moved steadily through the emptiness, calm and unhurried. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolve, staring at the void where the Valorian planets had been. His reflection glimmered faintly on the viewing glass, tired eyes tracing the remnants of destruction that no weapon had caused, only their presence. His second in command, Lieutenant Mara Kellen, approached cautiously. Sir, the system is gone. No survivors. Nothing remains. Even our sensors barely detect the fragments. Hayes did not immediately respond. He lowered his head, letting the silence fill the bridge. Around them, the crew whispered softly, uncertain of what to feel. Relief? Victory? Horror? None of it seemed to fit. Finally, Hayes spoke, voice low and steady. War should teach lessons, he said. This was not vengeance. This was warning. Consequence for those who thought themselves untouchable. Mara nodded, but her eyes glistened. 10,000 lives. More than that. They could not defend themselves. He turned to her, face stern yet gentle. I know, and that weighs on me every day. But we fight not for blood, not for hate. We fight to protect what is ours, and to ensure the galaxy never forgets what happens when the warnings are ignored. Outside the bridge, the remaining Terran ships moved silently through the void. No weapon fired, no broadcast called to announce the fleet's presence. Humanity's judgment had been delivered through patience, precision, and inevitability. The Valorian system had collapsed without a single human missile, yet the lesson had been absolute. In the aftermath, Admiral Hayes allowed himself a quiet moment. He activated a hollow of the colonies on Earth, children playing under sunlight, laughter echoing through the projection. He clenched his fists lightly, feeling the weight of responsibility. Humanity had fought to survive countless times, had been underestimated by the galaxy, mocked as fragile and weak. And yet here they were, the quiet force that shaped destinies. The bridge remained silent as crew members processed what had happened. Some stared at the void, speechless. Others silently prayed. Hayes walked along the deck, hands clasped behind his back, thoughts heavy with memory. This was not pride. This was purpose. Humanity had endured centuries of conflict, betrayal, and aggression. And now, the galaxy remembered why humans were not to be trifled with. Stor, the scout from Vathor 9, was now somewhere in the void, a lone survivor floating among wreckage and twisted remains. Through the comms, his voice broke into the human fleet's systems. I do not understand. How can a species do this without weapons? How can Presence alone erase worlds. Lieutenant Kellen stepped forward. You are seeing what many have forgotten. Humans are more than their weapons, more than their numbers. We are survival, endurance, and consequence, all in one. Hayes nodded slowly. History will remember this, not as conquest, not as victory, but as a reminder that humanity cannot be underestimated, that arrogance has consequences, and that patience can be more deadly than any fleet. The human ships turned toward the exit from the system, engines igniting softly, leaving behind only emptiness and memory. There was no celebration. There were no cheers. Only reflection, somber and profound on what had been necessary and what had been learned. In the silence, the galaxy would feel fear. Alien empires would whisper of the Terran Unity Fleet. Merchants, soldiers, and rulers alike would rethink every move, every insult, every attack. Across countless worlds the story would spread. The Valorian dominion is gone. Do not provoke humanity. And somewhere on a distant blue planet a child looked up at the night sky. Unaware of the events unfolding light years away, the child's eyes sparkled with curiosity and hope. That innocence, that drive to explore, to grow, to survive, that was the essence of humanity. That was the reason why no warning, no fleet, no empire could ever truly extinguish them. Admiral Hayes watched the stars through the viewport, thinking of those who had come before him, of sacrifices long past, and of the children yet to inherit the galaxy. Humanity had survived again, but this survival was not without cost, not without reflection. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "We are not conquerors. We are consequences." And as the fleet disappeared into the darkness beyond the Valorian system, the emptiness left behind was no longer just a void. It was a message, a memory, a story that would echo across the stars forever. Humanity endures. Humanity decides. Humanity is not to be underestimated. Silence returned, vast and unbroken. And in that silence, the galaxy finally understood fear. Weeks had passed since the Valorian system vanished, and yet the echoes of its destruction traveled faster than light across the galaxy. News arrived in whispers at distant trading hubs in imperial courts and on frontier colonies. Every alien race, from the smallest merchant clan to the largest empire, learned the same lesson in the same words. The Terran Unity Fleet was here. The Valorian Dominion is gone. No one saw the attack. No one knew how it happened. Only the message remained, a system erased in silence without a weapon fired. And across the galaxy, fear took root. On a distant Valorian outpost, a young officer trembled as he recounted the story to his comrades. They did not fire, he said, voice barely audible. Their ships, they just existed. And the worlds, the planets collapsed, just like that. Meanwhile, in alien courts and councils, leaders debated frantic strategies, looking at humanity with new eyes. Maps were redrawn, fleets were repositioned, trade routes closed, borders fortified. Every empire, every clan, every ruler understood the unspoken truth. Humanity could not be fought conventionally. They could not be bargained with. They could not be underestimated. Far away on the bridge of the Resolve, Admiral Hayes watched as the Terran fleet moved silently through space. His eyes, weary from the weight of responsibility, reflected the stars beyond. The destruction they had caused was necessary, precise, and absolute, but it was not celebrated. Humanity did not take pride in annihilation. They took pride in survival, endurance, and the lessons history had taught them. Lieutenant Mara Kellen stood beside him. "Sir, the galaxy is in chaos. Every empire fears us now. They will not forget." Hayes nodded, voice calm yet heavy. "They should not forget. We do not act out of hate or ambition. We act to ensure that the mistakes of the past are never repeated. The galaxy must remember that humanity is not weak. Humanity does not forget. Even on Earth, life continued in its ordinary rhythm. Children played in fields and parks, unaware of the cosmic shadow cast far beyond their skies. People went about their lives, eating, laughing, dreaming, yet their very existence, their stubborn survival, reminded the galaxy of what humans were capable of. A young boy named Liam, staring at the night sky, asked his mother, "Will humans ever fight again?" She smiled and ruffled his hair. "We fight only when we must, my child. But when we do, the galaxy remembers that was humanity. Peaceful when left alone, relentless when provoked. That was the warning they had delivered, not just to the Valorians, but to every intelligent species in the stars. Across human colonies and distant systems, soldiers and explorers alike reflected on the events. They did not celebrate victory. They mourned the lives lost in the colonies, the sacrifices made for survival, and the necessity of showing the galaxy what it meant to underestimate humanity. Yet even in sorrow there was quiet pride. Humanity had endured. Humanity had reminded the universe why it was not to be taken lightly. In the void where the Valorian system had once been, nothing remained but drifting dust and faint energy remnants. Yet the galaxy could feel it, like a heartbeat, a warning pulsing silently in the dark. Do not test the humans. Admiral Hayes activated a holo of the destroyed Valorian worlds. He looked at the empty cities, the fractured moons, and the silent oceans. We do not rejoice in destruction, he whispered. We rejoice in survival. We remember the cost, and we prepare for the future, so it never comes to this again. And as the Terran fleet turned toward home, stars streaking past their sleek black hulls, the galaxy trembled not from fear of war but from respect, awe, and an unshakable understanding that humans were different. They endured. They survived. And when pushed beyond limits, they became something the universe had never expected. A force beyond comprehension. A living warning, a reminder of consequence. Somewhere, on a distant, quiet world, a scholar of alien history wrote in a journal, trembling, "The humans are not gods. They are not invincible, but their patience, their memory, and their will are unmatched. Do not mock them. Do not test them. Do not forget." And in that moment, the galaxy knew it. All civilizations, empires, and species felt the quiet truth settle like dust across the stars. Humanity was not to be trifled with. On Earth, children slept beneath the stars. Somewhere in the Milky Way, humans gazed at distant lights with curiosity, hope, and determination. They had survived the unimaginable. They had endured when all else failed, and somewhere far beyond sight in the void left by the Valorians, the universe remembered. Humanity endures. Humanity decides. Humanity cannot be ignored. The memory of fear had been written across the stars, and humanity, silent and patient, continued its journey, stronger, wiser, and unyielding, ready to face whatever the galaxy would dare to send next.